Hi everyone, it's Level Heavy Muse. We are back. And we are more than halfway done. We are officially on episode, what? 5! Episode 5 of my IGTV series, Renegade Renaissance, about my series, Rubble. So, as promised, this episode is about the evolution of the work. So, first we're going to start off with thank you and gratitude for everyone that has continued to watch these episodes, that has continued to be supportive of my work as an artist, those that have been my patron, everything. Thank you guys so much. This has been wonderful to share these stories with you, to share this work with you. So I wanted to extend some gratitude first. But now, let's dive in. So, as I mentioned before, this episode is about the evolution of the work. So I wanted to talk about, highlight a couple of different pieces that sort of share what this series started to look like before the eventual change over time. So two of the pieces that I actually really love them for their colors, even though it was quite stubborn and frustrating to create them, is Sprite and Incandescence. Sprite and Incandescence were primarily made around the same time, actually, and you can kind of see the similarities to them because of the specific blue teal color that I used for both pieces. I love that color. It happens to be one of my favorite colors, actually, and a person that once looked over my work mentioned that they can kind of see that color in a lot of my pieces, and I don't think I intentionally try to keep including it, but as I said, it is my favorite color. But Sprite was also made with the works Buck, Agitator, and Mutinist. They almost had a very elemental vibe to them. Sprite looks very sort of water-like. Mutinist had a very earthy feel. Agitator looked like the sun. And Buck had this sort of purple hue to it, and so far I've been told that it looked like a heart. So maybe that was sort of the human element within these four specific pieces. And Incandescence just was its own unique piece. I mean, the colors just pushed its way out there. There was no whitening or muting of that work. It demanded to be seen in color. And even though those pieces look great together, say even as a four, they were definitely examples or show the processes of the frustration of trying to leave color as being, submissive rather than being the forefront. And also you can tell with these works, as I mentioned in the past, that the texture ends up being sort of the subject matter. In this case, the texture just seems to be along with the work, kind of assisting the work, rather than taking the forefront with it. So I like to show examples of when I sort of even give a little bit of the tour of the exhibition a bit, by showing these works sort of first to kind of describe the old frustration of developing this series. And as I said, I was working on Uprising in between these two. So as Uprising was still being developed and I'm still working on the kinks of developing that, I was developing some of these earlier works in process. So the finalizing of Uprising, as I said a few episodes earlier, once it was done, helped me figure out what it was as a technique to really get to the goal of what I was going to. So I like looking upon them because they give off some of they just show the process. And I think it's important, even within a series, especially as this, that it's meant to be experimental, to figure out the process of what it took to get to the final results. As like combat, as I mentioned in last week's episode, was hitting more towards the goal of what I was looking for. And it also goes to show that I didn't even know what, rebelling against my creative instinct would look like, what it would entail, what technique it would need, what am I looking for, what looks like not myself anymore, what is, and how do I get there? How do you look for something you don't even know could exist? And so seeing these works are a great way of kind of letting me know how I got to where I got to today with some of the newer pieces. And also, I'd like to say, like, as I mentioned in last week's episode, as I continued, a lot of the 18 by 18s, which is the sizing of Bug, Sprite, and Incandescence, really did take that, frontal movement with the mediums, bringing that dimension to the pieces. And you'll see it here in Cube and Agitator. And I personally liked putting them side by side with Mutinous and Buck, because it was a great way of you showing where I was and where I am going. So that's a great way to sort of see the evolution of some of the works. In next episode, I actually have a great set that's sort of, they're triplets, but they weren't created at the same time, but kind of paired them together in the show like triplets, because they're a great, simple, almost Cliff Notes version of telling the story of how this work developed through 3 big pieces. So that'll be for next week. Again, keep with your questions, keep with your comments. I want to thank you again for you guys' support so far. We have only 2 more episodes left of this. Again, this exhibition goes until September 5th. You can see it on artattacksf.com, at the Art Attack Gallery's website, as well as on my website, littlenews.com. And stick with me. Sit with me, and you can hear more about the works in the last 2 episodes, as well as any comments or questions that people have that I will keep posting within my stories for the week. I'll see you until next week. Bye.